恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐殊真无生。With the Sangha, we great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Present the wonderful Dhamma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye orahuri sammyao sanputoshe.
Namo sarando sujedoye olahadi samya sambuddhoje.
Okay, together please. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa bai qian wan jie nan zhao yu. 我今见闻得受持，愿皆如来真实义。English, here we go. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master and Dharma friends, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Heng Sure. I'm here in Benogan, Queensland, southeastern Queensland, and it's Sunday, March the 3rd, where I am. It's Saturday, March the 2nd, in Berkeley, California, where we are connecting to, and we have possibly enough bandwidth to let my computer run all of the texts. So we'll try that. And Jin Chuan Shi, if you notice that our texts are lagging or pixelating, let me know right away, and I'll ask you to post the text. Okay, agreed? Good method? All right, he's nodding his head. That must mean yes. Okay. We are experiencing rain here in the Gold Coast, which is a good thing. And it's, I would show you our beautiful landscaping garden outside, but it's kind of gray. So, and Northern California, I know, is not only getting rain, you're getting floods. So we've been following the news about Guerneville and all of the Russian River flooding, and our governor, bless his heart, declared an emergency in most of the counties around us. So lots of water, and in California, that's a good thing, to have the reservoirs, to have the lakes, to have the creeks and the rivers at capacity and above, but too much causes trouble on the other side. So anyway, we'll keep our prayers and transference of merit going to normalize, to regulate the weather for the planet, for the globe. Now, what I'm going to do first is to bring up our text that we're going to be explaining. When we come back, we're going to be on page 60 and 61 There we go. We're going to begin with the title. Maybe, Logan, maybe she needs a hand to get in there, sliding the door. It's kind of tricky. First time, you need to. She's welcome to come in, no problem. She can sit here. Okay. Here we go. We chant it together. We do it in Chinese, and you can contemplate the English. But the Chinese is Namo Dafang Guangfo Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pusa. You're listening to the sound of a 1933 Gibson mandolin. So here we go. We'll chant this together. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Fo Pusa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. Two more. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. One more. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Ji Huayan Hai Wei Fo Pusa. There we go. A 90-year-old musical sound coming from down under. How about that? Would she prefer to sit on this side? Just, I feel you're so far away over there. You're welcome to join. I mean, maybe you like solitude. That's fine. Good. Sure. No problem. Yeah. Yes.
Thomas, I think we are having some problems connecting to your screen.
Okay. Problems connecting the screen.
On our side.
On your side. So
Jerry, would you like to say something? Jin Chua, why don't you say something? What do you say?
Just said a moment ago that they can't access a GoToMeeting for that computer. Is that what you said, Jerry?
Yes. Other two computers are fine, but the computer connect to the projector cannot connect to GoToMeeting because of Windows firewall setting. Log is coming over to help.
So if Dharma Master, if you like, you could just call out the page number and they can show the PDF like they've been doing last time.
All right. Should I close down my desktop or keep it going?
You can keep it going. I would just showing the text is
okay.
fine.
Yeah. So if we can look at page 61. This is, there we go. Page 60 and 61 is our text today, and I'm going to make mine big so that everybody in Berkeley and around the world can read it. We're going to start with this paragraph, and we do the Chinese first, then we follow with the English, and then I'll explain. And if you find this heavy going, if this is a little opaque, stick with it. We're going to make sense of it. Okay, is everybody ready? What we do is we read along together. Now, some of you are going to go, oh, well, I don't read Chinese. Thank you. That's fine. We have 3 levels of Chinese. You'll notice here. There's the Chinese characters, like that one right there, and that one right there. And on the side of that character is another whole syllabic alphabet. It's a syllabary. It's called the Guoyin Zimu. And there are people who totally rely on that to get the sound of that character. Some people don't need it. They just read the character. Even many Chinese grew up reading the Romanized characters, the alphabet, Y-O-U with a slash mark, Z-H-I with the slash mark. That's called Hanyu Pinyin, and that's the most popular. People read that worldwide. And because it's ABCs, we kind of have a sense of what that might mean. Yo, zhi, zhu, fan, nao, zhong, zhong, xiang. And the little added marks give us the 4 tones, because Chinese Mandarin is a 4-tonal language. Cantonese, on the other hand, is 8 and more. So Mandarin has 4 tones. Ah, 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 ah. Those little symbols are there to tell us which tone each word is. So that may be your only Mandarin lesson of the whole day, maybe. Maybe the whole week, but you just had a Mandarin lesson. We get a chance to practice, and we're going to read it and try these sounds coming out of your mouth. It's kind of fun to know that, excuse me, these sounds have been in people's ears for 10,000 years, perhaps. Maybe not in their current shape, but certainly Chinese culture goes back. I just met 2 individuals from Gansu, from out in the West, and they were saying our hometown is the source of Chinese culture. The legendary Emperor Fuxi came from there 10,000 years ago. So they trace their history 10,000 years. California, I think humans appeared in California a couple of 100 years ago. Before that, it was grizzly bears and, condors, things like that. So we have historic barns in California that have been there for 60 years, and people are all thrilled. Chinese culture goes back 10,000. So we're reading an ancient language that's still very much alive. Okay, does that pique your interest in learning how to speak Chinese? I hope. Here we go. Ready? We're going to recite. Here we go. 有知诸烦恼种种相，所谓久远随形象，无边引起相，俱生不舍相，民起一意相，与心相应相，不相应相。Here we are. Look at the break here. Hold on. I want to get us back in line. Ready? Here we go. 随去受生而住相，三界差别相，爱见迟慢如见深入过幻相，三业因缘不觉相，略说乃至84000皆如实知. All right. Now, what was all that about? By golly, here it is right here. And we're going to read this whole paragraph. Make it a little smaller there. Okay. Is Jin Chuan Shi, is the size right for everybody there? Can you read that?
So
that's a good size.
It's okay for us, but we're actually not sharing your screen because they're getting the computer here to show GoToMeeting, but they've already put the PDF
okay
for us to see.
Okay. All right. In that case,
we are sharing it on YouTube, and the font size looks fine.
Okay. I'm on 61, paragraph 2. He also knows. Okay. Here we go. He also knows all of the various attributes of their afflictions, namely, the attributes that follow from the long distant past, the attribute of boundless arising through enticement, the attribute of coming along with rebirth and not letting go, the attribute of a unified principle arising from sleep, the attribute of interacting or not interacting with the mind, the attribute of resulting from undergoing birth and residing in the destinies, the attribute of the differences among the three realms, the attribute of the disasters of love, views, stupidity, and arrogance that are like an arrow that strikes deep, and the attribute of not severing the causes and conditions of the three karmas. To summarize, he knows the reality of even up to 84,000 of these attributes. Okay, what in the world is going on? This text, this is called the Flower Garland Sutra. We use the Sanskrit name called the Avatamsaka Sutra. And the Chinese call it Huayan Jing, flower garland. These are words the Buddha spoke. And so it dates back at least 2,500 years to our historical Buddhist lifetime. We are at a part of the sutra that is close to the very end of the entire text. This is the last chapter in a text that has 40 chapters. This is actually 39. And there's a short summary chapter called Samantabhadra's Practices and Vows, number 40. So we can know that this is I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Check that, delete that. We're on the 10 stages chapter, which is 26. So we're actually not at 39. We're at the second half, let's say, of the text, but we're at the end of this long chapter called the 10 stages chapter. And it's progressively more subtle, progressively more demanding of the reader, just the way what? Let's look at mathematics. What grade do you start learning addition and subtraction? Anybody know? What, are you in third grade? First and second, you learn to add and subtract. Okay, then multiplication and division follows. Then high school was where, in Ohio, was where we met, was geometry, and then algebra. And if you pursued it, that was kind of the watershed. That was the basics. If you wanted to go into math, you got trigonometry, calculus, and then into higher math. Children learn numbers, maybe even before they go to school. Maybe in Sesame Street is where you learn numbers, 1, 2, 3 to 9 and 0. Calculus still depends upon numbers. And each of those grades of familiarity with mathematics depends upon what came before it. This sutra is just that way, which is to say, we're learning about this superhero human being called a bodhisattva, an awakened being. And I call him a superhero because the things he or she, gender non-specific, does are the very things that the Marvel Comics universe shows us doing. Spider-Man, think Spider-Man. Spider-Man could be Peter Parker. He could be happily out there, what is he, a photographer or a news reporter? But he's not, because he was bitten by this atomic spider. He's now a crime fighter. He saves buses from falling off bridges. He saves children from under the wheels of buses. You know, he's a superhero. And somehow in the Marvel Comics universe, I grew up reading Superman comics and Spider-Man comics, Batman comics. Part of me wants there to be that kind of extraordinary human being who's got special powers. The Bodhisattva in the Avatamsaka Sutra does things that Stan Lee and the creators of Marvel Comics superheroes hadn't dreamed of yet. Is it fantasy? Is it designed for entertainment for young children who are learning their strength and courage and values? It's not. The superheroes that the Buddha describes come specifically, directly from humanity. All of the abilities that the Bodhisattva discovers come from the same place, which is your mind. The mind that is currently speaking English, you're listening in English. If you are tuned in to our webcast that's going into China, they're hearing it in Mandarin. 他们现在用中文听到我们这个讲经说法的法会. You just flip it over and you think, wow, all those abilities come from the same place, the human mind. The Bodhisattva is right there. We are in the 9th out of 10 stages. There's only one more stage to go. So we can know that today's text that we just read, the various attributes of their afflictions, is pretty subtle. This is high-level stuff for the Bodhisattva, but it's based upon 1 to 9 plus 0. It's based upon ABC to XYZ, right? It's step by step by step, opening up potentials in the human mind that are all there, latent and waiting, if somebody wants to take on, my Jewish Yiddish friends call it, all the tsuras of being a bodhisattva, all of the hassles of being a bodhisattva. If that's something you're able to do, this is how. This is a how-to manual. It's a text, right? You get a fancy new camera, and along with it comes this nice white small operation manual for your brand new camera. Underneath it is the Spanish language version, right? And if you buy it in California. So this is the nice little PDF how-to manual for the human mind operating at a whole new level. Okay, so far so good. That's the preamble. Everybody going, all right, I'll give you 5 minutes and then I'm out of here, right? Okay, so what is going on? He also knows the various attributes of their afflictions. Our Bodhisattva is learning how to teach. He, she knows who she wants to teach. Could be her mom, could be his son, or his best buddy, or an enemy. He really wants to teach the enemies. They just don't get along, and he wants to change that. So he has to know what those individuals are thinking. What we read today, attributes. What's an attribute? It's a feature. A feature. You could even say a fact. It's an aspect, okay? It's an aspect of the mind of the person they're trying to teach. This part of the text is a glass window in the, I won't say the head, and wherever the thinking happens. The Chinese say xin, and then they point to your chest. When the Chinese say thinking, they don't do this, right? In America and Australia, put on your thinking cap. Oh, clonk, aha, you know. The thinking happens here in the brain. The Chinese traditional medicine, Indian medicine, doesn't do this for the brain. Thinking happens here. So in the xin yi. So this Bodhisattva has opened a glass window into the thinking of these beings, they call them, these people. He has names and faces for them. He knows their stories. He wants to cross them over. That's our language, right? So when he opens that window into the thinking processes of these living beings, look what he sees. What is an affliction? An affliction is something that goes wrong. It's trouble. This Bodhisattva knows all about their troubles, all of the various attributes of their afflictions. He knows why they hurt and what to do about it. What would they be? Well, in the sutra, you always get 10. This is called the teaching of totality. You get 10 of everything. So we're going to get 10 attributes of afflictions. Translate, we're going to get 10 features of their misery. Why does he want to do that? He's going to set it right. She's going to cure them, get them over their blues. Okay? So what is it? Well, there's that aspect that came from the past, long distant past. 九缘, right? What was it? 九缘随行相. That aspect that they've just done it that way forever, right? They just always do it that way, and it hurts. It's just too hard to put the bad habit down. This Bodhisattva knows it. Okay, got it. She is going to help them through it. The aspect of boundless arising through enticement. The Chinese said, what? Said, 无边引起. 无边引起. What is enticement? It's like, oh, that looks good. That looks good. I'll try that, right? What would it be like? Oh, okay, donuts. Oh, right? Donuts, Krispy Kreme. Are there Krispy Kremes in Australia? The Krispy Kremes have come, okay. Krispy Kremes, right? They're like really good. Oh boy, sugar bomb. Boom. Makes your mouth just do a dance, right? And half of one is pretty much all the sugar that you can take, but you can't stop with half a donut. Who eats half a donut? You eat a whole donut and half of another donut, and your blood sugar is just spiking, and then about 30 minutes later it's right? And tomorrow, guess what? Krispy Kremes come out, they're so good. Who's going to say no, right? Boundless arising through enticement. It's an affliction. To kick, why would you want to kick a donut habit? They're so good. Donuts taste yummy, right? But how many donuts can you eat before you've had your last donut? Where he's like, yeah, I know they're good, but they're so bad for me. Especially after the third one. Oh. So, Bodhisattva goes, yep, I know. You got a sweet tooth, Krispy Kreme are yummy. We're going to get you down to 1 so that it doesn't knock you out and you can function. I know people, we had a monk, he had a sweet tooth, and he was completely unaware that every day after lunch, if he ate dessert, he got mean. This guy, he totally didn't recognize himself. We would watch what showed up for dessert, because whatever people bring is what we eat, right? And if there was pie or ice cream, he would have some, and we'd look at each other and go, oh boy, get ready. And after lunch, for about an hour, this guy was just picking on people. He was just mean. It was the sugar. Completely a sugar reaction made him nasty to be around. He just enjoyed talking, saying things that stung. And if he didn't eat the sugar, that behavior wasn't there. Oh boy, boundless arising through enticement. You look at it, you can't see past it. The attribute of coming along with rebirth and not letting go. What is that? 俱生不舍. Together with birth, not renouncing, not letting go. So, Wao Yi, this particular aspect of affliction is just built right in. Speaking of mean, we have a bird called a currawong. It's called a garden bird. It's not a fancy bird at all. They're all over Queensland. And currawongs are bullies. They're bullies. They stake out the bird feeder and won't let any other birds come and eat while they're there. And I go out and I talk to them. And I say, look, this is yours. I can toss crackers to the currawong and they'll catch them in the air. And this, Eat it and fill your belly as much as you want. I got old crackers here. I offer them to the Buddha, and then I give them to you. And I recite the Buddha's name, lucky bird. Why are you a bully? Let the other birds eat. Come on. The only ones who totally don't worry about him are the rainbow lorikeets. They are tougher than the currawongs. They're not as aggressive. They don't try to chase the other birds away. But the currawong, it's just, it comes along with being a currawong, that you are greedy and angry and jealous and possessive. Man, oh man. So, comes along with rebirth and doesn't let go. Unified principle arising from sleep. Don't have a clue what that affliction could be. I guess it, in the sense of unaware. When we're asleep, we're shutting down, eyes, shutting down ears, nose, tongue, body. You can feel the body. If your bed is, if you have a pea under the mattress, you can't go to sleep. And the mind is awake. So the attribute is a xiang, it's a feature, mian qi, from sleep, single meaning. So what did the Buddha say about people? He said, you people are asleep with your eyes open. You are born drunk and you die in a dream, said the Buddha. Not unkindly, but truthfully, right? Same to you, Buddha. Unified principle arising from sleep, not arising from wakefulness, from being awake. Okay, an attribute of interacting or not interacting with the mind. That's an affliction. The attribute of undergoing birth and living through the various destinies. Now, this, let me say again what's going on here. Our Bodhisattva, this is instructions. This is a how-to manual for what you see if you're a ninth stage Bodhisattva and you're looking at the things that trouble people and other beings. You want to know what goes wrong. It's like a doctor, right? You want to, this is a diagnosis. This is symptoms, I'm sorry. This is symptoms which then can lead to a diagnosis to fix it. The Bodhisattva is looking through a window on the mind of living beings and saying, oh yeah, this thought, that's a problem, and it came from here. This one is different, it came from there, right? So this is very almost medicinal. It's scientific as the Bodhisattva catalogs, lists all the things that can go wrong with the people he wants to cure. The attribute of the differences among the three realms, okay? If you come from the desire realm, there's a sign. Come from the form realm, a sign. Formless realm, a sign. Okay, this one is very picturesque. What is it? There's a xiang. What is it? It's an attribute, an aspect of the disasters brought about by love, views, stupidity, and arrogance that are like an arrow that strikes deep. Okay? We don't have that many archers. We looked briefly at these last time, and we talked about it. But before gunpowder, before the creation of chain reactions involving flint and gunpowder propelling an iron ball out the barrel of a gun, arrows were the best way to kill from a distance. You could stand 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 100 yards away and shoot an arrow, and it would strike deep and kill somebody. After the invention of gunpowder and firearms, arrows were outmoded, obsolete. Just the way arrows made clubs and knives and swords, obsolete, right? So, weapons technology, ouch. What is like an arrow that strikes deep? Arrogance is, stupidity is, wrong views are, love, says the Buddha. Uh-oh, trouble. We unpacked this one last time. We went through erotic love, eros, agape, impartial, compassionate love, We went through philios, the love between generations, parents and kids. And all of those different ways of feeling connection to other beings are packed into 4 letters, Love. The Buddha's saying attachment that comes from love, when the situation changes, causes pain. If that were not true, popular music would vanish, right? That no good man of mine, you know, he left me broken-hearted, etc., endlessly, right? So how much of popular culture is based upon the disaster of love going wrong? The Buddha goes, yep, I know. I totally know. And this Bodhisattva recognizes that aspect of affliction and wants to wake us up. Okay, finally, the attribute of not severing causes and conditions of 3 karmas. Things we do with our bodies, mouths, and minds make us hurt. Not always. If so, if it's an affliction, here's the aspect. The Bodhisattva looks through this window in the mind of living beings and goes, I see it. The doctor goes, now I need to know how to cure it. To summarize, he or she knows the reality of even up to 84,000. 84,000 is a familiar Buddhist number. It just means most, right? All. Okay, whew, boy, we made it through that paragraph. Did everybody follow? Anybody still with me here? So what is it? It's looking at people you know the way a doctor looks at a sick person and saying, your mind, the problems in your mind. I see how those thoughts turn. How can I turn them away from affliction into harmony, into the mind used right? Right? So, different, huh? The Buddhist Sutra, it's like a medical text. I think that's so interesting that when you parse it that way, when you look at it as a how-to for getting rid of the blues, for what hurts, suddenly it's like, oh, how subtle, how keen is this Bodhisattva's wisdom that he can look at thoughts turning in your mind. Yeah. One of our favorite illustrations, a story I've told before on Bob Olson, Gofa, and the jelly donuts. They weren't Krispy Kreme, they were jelly donuts. True story. I think you all know, maybe you heard this before, but it bears repeating. Our teacher, Master Shen Hua, was known as an insightful teacher. You always had the feeling that he knew your thoughts better than you did. That he knew and was watching your thoughts move in your mind. It was pretty uncanny and not a little disconcerting to have somebody watching your deepest thoughts. So he didn't make a fuss over it. He didn't, if you were ready and could absorb some teaching, he would let you know. Otherwise, you just had that feeling somehow. And sometimes it was really dramatic. Okay, on Sunday afternoons, after our lunch at the monastery, we would go across town to where the nuns stayed on Washington Street, out in Pacific Heights. This is on the very northwestern edge of San Francisco, not too far from the Presidio. People know that decommissioned military base, not too far from the Golden Gate Bridge. And Master Hua would explain another text on Sunday afternoons, different from the one he lectured every night back at Gold Mountain. And this day, when we went out, Bob Olson, disciple Gofa, was told by Shifu, okay, Guofa, you watch the door. You stay there. We're going out. You watch the door. And try your best, Guofa. Now, Bob Olson had a sweet tooth. I was his electrical apprentice for about 9 months. And our morning always began with a jelly donut run up to the local bake shop and Diet Pepsi. Bob would put away 3 or 4 jelly donuts and a couple Diet Pepsis before we began our electrical work. And Bob was another guy who sugar was not the right fuel for him. It didn't suit him. And so he had decided that he was going to quit sugar. Being a real cultivator. Bob was really a cultivator. He loved to meditate. He tried really hard. And Sagittarian, and big heart, big energy. And so he had announced that he was going to cut off sugar, cut it off, unwisely, right? Stop sugar. Okay. Well, that morning, somebody delivered a box of jelly donuts to the monastery. Now, who was testing Bob's resolve? I don't know. But we had lunch, and there were these jelly donuts on the counter in the lunch room, the kitchen was next to where Bob was sitting. So Bob said, okay, Shifu, I'll watch the door. And he sat down and crossed his legs and meditated by the side of the door in the office. So we all went over to Washington Street and we're listening to Shifu explain the nature of medicine, a text called the Yao Xing Fu. And at some point, Shifu stopped the lecture and he said to the nun, one of the nuns in charge, he said, bring me the phone. And so she took the phone, had a long cord, put it on the stand. Shifu dialed. It was a dial days, right? Dial a telephone. Hello? Yeah? 怎么样啊? Everything okay? Okay. Watch the door. Hangs up the phone, right? We're all like, what's going on? And so lecture continues. And so another half hour, Shifu says, bring me the phone. Bring the phone over. Everything okay? No problem? Okay. See you soon. Hangs the phone up. So we're like, what's going on? I've never done this before. So we all get in the bus and come back and go to Gold Mountain. Ooh, go to the meeting, just quit. Oh, there we are. Still there? Hello. Can you still hear me?
Fine. Yes, your everything is good. You can, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, it just jumped. So I left you at the critical moment in this story. So we come in the door, and here's Bob Olson sweating and pale, and Shifu comes in, and Bob bows to him. He bows to him like so sincerely, and Master Hua is like smiling. Oh, hey, Guofa, 怎么样啊? And Bob says, Shifu, you can read my mind, he says. And Shifu says, of course I can read your mind. How else could I teach you if I couldn't read your mind? He said, in Chinese, and we translated. So we're like, what happened? So Master Hua goes upstairs, and Bob goes, man, he says, I was sitting here, I was meditating, and those jelly donuts started talking to me. They were talking to me, and I was just sitting here, and they were going, come and eat me. I'm delicious. I bet you could eat me and my friend here too. And he says, and I was fighting it. I said, it's like a demon. And so I couldn't hold it, and I uncrossed my legs, and I got down, and the phone rang. And it was Shifu. And he said, how are you? And I said, fine. I hung up the phone, and the state was gone, and I came back and I meditated again. He said, but then those donuts started to talk to me, and they were singing to me, and I was salivating, and I uncrossed my legs. I was running into the kitchen, and the phone rang again, and it was sure, and he says, and so you can go count them. They're all there. I didn't touch them. He says, do you think Shurf was really reading my mind? So all the way across San Francisco, somebody was tracking Bob Olson's sweet tooth, right? So I tell you, his resolve really grew at that point. He got more faithful than ever. So, as I say, that's a dramatic example of how somebody who's selfless, maybe, because me and mine, I, me, mine is not the center of your life. So you have room for others. And if you're really, really quiet and sensitive, you can pick up, I don't know, how subtle an electrical impulse is a single thought. I think you could probably trace it with an EKG. You can see thoughts move, maybe, but Bodhisattva's got the world's most sensitive EKG here. He can look into the mind and see the aspect of things that cause trouble, attributes of our afflictions. How about that? The reality of them, even up to 84,000 kinds. All right, now the next paragraph is a long one again. And if you count, look at all the xiang. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I get 8. Did I miss some? They're longer, complex attributes. And this one is karma, various attributes of karma. So, okay, are you ready? Y'all with me? We can do this paragraph. Okay, I'll just read along here. 又知诸业种种相，所谓善不善，无记相，有表示，无表示相，与心同生不离相，因自性刹那坏，而次第其果不失相，有报无报相，受黑等众报相，如天无量相，翻胜差别相，现受生受后受相，胜非胜定不定相，略说乃至84000皆如是之。Oh boy. Here we go. This is long, right? Here we go, big paragraph, right? He also knows all the various attributes of karma, namely, the attribute of karma being wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate. The attribute of karma having representation or not having representation. The attribute of karma being produced along with the mind and not leaving it. The attribute of the inherent nature of karma's causes being destroyed in an instant, and the results then being amassed and not lost. The attribute of karma's having retribution or not having retribution. The attribute of undergoing karma's various retributions, such as utter darkness, and so forth. The attribute of karma's being as limitless as a field. The attribute of the karmic differences between ordinary beings and sages. The attribute of karma's prior undergoing upon birth or undergoing afterwards. And the attribute of karma's being fixed or unfixed in terms of the vehicle or non-vehicle involved. To summarize, he knows their reality even up to 84,000 attributes. Okay, wowee. Again, our Bodhisattva is looking into the mind and is so sensitive that he's able to tell us the finest distinctions of karma and its echo. Karma and its traces. Think what? Think rock in a pool, right? Nice calm pool. Take a rock, throw it in. What happens? Plop, 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 plop. Right? The Bodhisattva is looking at the pool, and the pool is my mind, and every action, every word, every thought is the rock. This Bodhisattva is looking at the ripples and telling us about what goes on after we do something. When you think of karma, we have to unpack karma because there's a common misperception of karma being bad. Oh, karma, man, that's just karma, right? Well, half of karma is bad, half of it is not. Think of karma in another way. Karma means action and its results. It's cause and effect, right? Science, what was it? I guess it was NASA launching rockets, talked about vectors. So a missile, a rocket starts out straight, boosted up. At a certain point, it has to curve to get into orbit. And the vector force of the engine, the propulsion, et cetera, puts that rocket into orbit. And the astronauts on top of it, wherever they're going, or the instruments, right? That helps your cell phone message arrive. It helps your text get there because sometimes the payload is a cell phone satellite. Okay, the vectors are what put it up there. Karma is a vector. You scold somebody with harsh intent, that person may never recover. Every time they see you after that, they remember what you said to them. Can't forget it. The attribute of karma of that speech act, those words, made tsunami waves in the pool of that person's mind and heart, right? That would be an attribute of karma, just for example. When you say something timed perfectly to calm somebody who's terrified, they've had a trauma, and you know just what to say, and you say, no big deal, you'll get through it, no worries. As they say in Australia, no drama. And the person, it's like a cloud parts and the sun shines, right? That's the wave on the pond, the ripple on the pond of that person's mind, an attribute of karma. So, okay, that's what's being talked about. He knows the various attributes of karma, such as, first one, it's either wholesome, it's unwholesome, or indeterminate. 3 levels of reaction to the karma. It was a good deed. It was a unskillful deed, or there's no way to tell. Maybe the recipient of the deed wasn't there or didn't notice. Okay? Bodhisattva sees it, knows it. The aspect of karma, what? Having representation or not. There's no sign. 没有表示, 有表示, 无表示, right? Is that what it says? Yeah, 有表示, 无表示相. So that particular karmic deed, that action, didn't show up. The Bodhisattva knows it as it is. It's produced with the mind that doesn't leave it. Okay? It's only done in thoughts. But what can be done in thoughts? Calling somebody a racist slur, right? You toss out. When I was growing up, Irish were mix, and my father's side is Irish, and mix were just considered as a mick cop, Irish policeman, right? And that was a slur. And is that person a mick because their heritage is Irish? It's in your mind. Right? They're just they might even never have been to Ireland, like myself. I've never been to Ireland, but I'm half Irish. So you call me a Mick, and it's like, oh, That's an insult, isn't it? Oh, are you upset? I'm sorry you're feeling bad. I don't identify with being a mick. It's in your mind, right? Karma is being produced along with the mind and not leaving it. For the person who throws the slur, it's huge. He really meant to hurt you, but it's only in his mind, right? Bodhisattva sees it, knows it, can cure it, can heal it. Check this one out. The attribute of inherent nature of karmas causes being destroyed in an instant and the results then being amassed and not lost. Well, what is being said here? It's an aspect of the cause of karma by its inherent nature is over. But the results amass, they gather, right? Again, perfect analogy, stone, rock. Once it's passes the surface of the pond, boom, down it goes. You don't see the rock anymore, but the ripples, right? So, okay, what else? The attribute of karmas having a retribution or not. And karma, they say, 定业不可转. Fixed karma cannot be avoided. So what if it's another kind of action, okay? The attribute of karma, undergoing karma's various retributions, such as utter darkness and so forth, okay? Sometimes it's coming. You just know it's coming. The attribute of karma is being limitless as a field. Yeah? Keeps on going. Routine, like a field. The attribute of the, okay, karmic differences between ordinary beings and sages. A sage is somebody who's already gone beyond mortality, beyond birth and death. Bodhisattvas are sages. Buddhas are sages. I remember the first time somebody said in my hearing, he said, "I'm in pain, but it doesn't hurt." I thought, what? Stop. It hurts, but you're not suffering? Yeah, exactly. It's painful, but it doesn't hurt me. I'm not suffering. And I thought, wow, what kind of breadth of mind does it take to look at pain, which everybody's afraid of, and just go, yeah, that's called pain. Huh. And then in meditation, I was sitting there, and it was an hour, it was a Chan session, Gold Mountain Monastery. And we'd been sitting for 4 or 5 days, and that's like hours and hours and hours of meditation, unmoving. And Master Hua, again, so much of this, my experience of Buddhism came from this single teacher and his explanations. He would say, "So your legs are on fire, right?" "Yes, my legs are on fire." He would say, "What does it feel like?" "It's burning, sir, it's burning." "Oh, well, who's feeling it?" And it's just like, clunk. "That's a really good question, Shifu. I've been looking into it. I don't know. Who's feeling that?" Like, that's really interesting. Is it my knee? Well, what part of my knee is me? And he tossed that pebble. I was thinking, mostly I was afraid of the pain. Is this going to go on forever? Or is it just going to keep burning? Like, what if my legs break? What if smoke comes out of my joints? And just by saying, "Oh, it hurts, huh? Who's feeling it?" Like, suddenly, that was exactly the right thing to say. I don't know. And what went away was my fear of the pain. And what replaced it was this sense of wonder. The pain was my whole world. As I was sitting there and meditating, what should I stop? Should I take my legs down? What should I do? And it was like, no. Who hurts? Who's hurting? And it was just the right thing to say right at the right time. And the pain didn't stop. but the fear of it and the commentary about whether my legs are going to explode, gone. What a good teacher, right? The difference between ordinary beings for whom pain equals bad. Take a Panadol, right? Take Coricidin, take a pill. Sages are like, that's an experience. Yeah, you know now, you know that flavor. You know the flavor of knee pain. How about that? That's who's hurting? The attribute of karma's prior arriving at birth or later aspect. So karma can appear at different times, like seeds bearing lilies in the February, unless you're in Australia, and roses in June, right? The attribute of karma being fixed or unfixed in terms of the vehicle or non-vehicle involved. Two options here. Karma can be fixed depending on body, mouth, and mind. It can be unfixed depending upon body, mouth, and mind. To summarize, he knows their reality up to 84,000 attributes. Whew. We did it. We did it. We're good. Next time, faculties. Okay, that's the faculties are sense organs, for example. That's what we're going to be talking about. Okay. Wow, we just did it. We looked again at how the sutra is taking us into a very subtle function of your mind and my mind. You know, Buddhism is psychology at a very profound level. Yeah, it's a religion, okay, the Buddhist religion, yeah. Last week I was in Berkeley, California. I'm looking at people whose faces I saw. Now you're on the screen. How did you guys get to Berkeley? Did you travel so far? No, I came to, that's right, I came to Australia. And we had a visit. I was there because we were visited by the leading monks of the Buddhist Association of China, 中国佛教协会, and their staff members who help them keep track of Buddhism in China. China, the Buddhist world in China is a complicated place, my goodness. There's 200,000 people in robes. There's something like 1,400 specific monasteries, and it's not easy job to keep track of all of the people and all of their comings and goings and their work within Buddhism. But one of the things that I realized was our guests, distinguished monks and lay people and staff members, they are part of the Buddhist church in China. And while nobody calls it that, we don't talk about Buddhism as being a church, it really is that way. It's been there for thousands of years. And you have to regulate it when you have that many people. The closest example would be the Vatican, right? Bless his heart. There are 1 billion Roman Catholics in the world, 1 billion plus. And if you don't keep the roof patched, if you don't keep the wafers and the wine coming for the Eucharist, you've got chaos. You can't carry on the work of the Roman Catholic Church. Buddhism is similar although it wouldn't say so, and before the Buddhist Association of China happened, Buddhism was called Yipan Sansha, like a tray of loose sand. Every mountain was its own kingdom. There was no coordination. In the 20th century, the very first chairperson of the Buddhist Association of China was our grand teacher, Master Xu Yun, Master Empty Cloud. That was when they began it, trying to regulate, trying to keep track of, keep order of all of the phenomenon of Buddhism, the church, you could say, so to speak, right? It's not a church, but it certainly looks like one, behaves like one, and requires a lot of care, the way you keep so many believers moving forward, all pointing in the same direction, more or less. So the Panchen Lama was one of the original vice chairpersons. And so the current iteration, the current team of the Buddhist Association of China came to Berkeley, to the Bay Area, to the city of 10,000 Buddhas last week. Actually, this week, if Sunday is the last day of the week. And it was a wonderful visit. We had a really fine time, thanks to the hard work of our lay people who, my goodness, had to really, really work hard to get them fed, get them picked up, get them delivered. It's a lot of details, simply going to the airport, greeting guests, bringing them back safely. All 12 people, 14 people with all their luggage, right? So just one aspect of it is hard to do. And our lay people just completely stepped up and made it all happen. We went to City of 10,000 Buddhas after lunch at Berkeley and talked about a Buddhist forum that will be held in the US in October, maybe, where the dates aren't fixed yet, but it's still in planning, but it's looks like it might happen. And then we talked about Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And oh my goodness, DRBU was thrilling for the monks. They wrote back, texted back on WeChat and said they used the word shocked and moved by what they met at DRBU. And one example was our friend Yihuan, who's not here tonight. I don't see her. She's usually sitting right in front, but Yihuan's seat is empty there. So she's teaching Guwen, classical Chinese, at Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And apparently her father also taught Guwen in Taiwan. I didn't know that. So it was her turn to share with our visitors what they're studying at Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And mind you, these guests of ours had been to visit 16 monasteries in 1 week. They did temple hopping to the max, and it's one visit is much like the other. And here they were at Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And so Professor Yihuan, Sri Yihuan, stands up with Kenny, a recent graduate of our university, who is now working on staff. And Kenny did the English translation of Yihuan's chanting of the Da Xiao, the Great Learning. And she would chant a line, and she did it in the classical, traditional Chinese way of chanting, which is, I can't imitate it, I haven't learned it, but it's very distinctive. And it has melody, and you chant. So she would chant a line, Yo Pang Tong Yuan Pang Lai, and the entire audience goes, Yo Pang Tong Yuan Pang Lai, and then she goes on down, now going, and Kenny translates into English. It was done so well, the Chinese guests just laughed. They clapped their hands. They looked at each other. They were gobsmacked. It was great. And they were so pleased that it wasn't a show for them. It was her class. This is how, they call it a cohort, a class of a dozen students from Mexico and Poland and Latin America, from China, from all over the world, came together to recite ancient Chinese poetry, the 4 books, the Confucian classics, and loved doing it, had fun. The director, the chairman, he's the vice chairman, but he's the acting chairman, leaned over to me, stuck his thumb up and went, "Wow, the energy here is just great," he said. "Wow, 这个正气好大, oh, 不错, 不错, like that. And that, unsolicited. Because why? It was delightful. It was really, really fun. And while you can make the claims, you can say, oh, Master Hua was teaching Confucian virtue to young people in the West because that's what we need first before we learn about emptiness and form. You can say that, and everyone goes, uh-huh. But when they see it with their own eyes, that here are students from around the world, college students, graduate students, getting off on chanting the Confucian classics beautifully with a melody and translating it in English, putting its roots down in Western soil. They got it. They really got it. And everybody else was just delighted. Because why? It's fun. It's really fun what they were doing. It's goofy. It's silly. It's totally, here we are in a vineyard in Mendocino County chanting ancient Chinese literature, in the tones and the melodies of the classics. And the guests were just thrilled. That was really, really fun. And so I think the visit went quite well. We debriefed everybody, and all the monks who I'm looking at now on my screen took part. Everybody did their part. Because we were all running around Mendocino County, Jin Fosher was there lecturing on Wuliang Shoujing, turning the Dharma wheel in Berkeley. So if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. And everybody pitched in, and we really, really enjoyed that experience. So just wanted to report that. Something else, it occurred to me, we just heard about the attribute of karma of Ju Sheng, what was it? Ju Sheng, coming along with rebirth, and Busha, and not letting go of. And I got a report here. I need to say, tell me if you can see these guys. Can you all, Jin Chuan, can you see these guys?
If the pictures are loading, yes, we see it.
You can see them, right? Okay, these are called rainbow lorikeets. Here we are. I'll hold it still so you can see them. Good, yes? Okay, good. That's a rainbow lorikeet. They belong to the parrot family. And they're small. They just fit in the palm of your hand. And this is a couple. They live nearby in the bushes, in the trees, and I see them every day. They come out and they eat our parrot mix. They have a big temper. And they put out, talk about karma, attribute of karma, coming along with you. Today, I put the bird seed out as usual. And within about a minute, the rainbow lorikeets showed up, and it's been raining. There they are. You know, they're goofy looking, they're cute, they're beautiful, and as well. So they landed on the bird feeder, and 2 turkeys showed up, and a 3rd turkey showed up. I want to show you what a turkey looks like. Here's turkeys at the bird feeder. Now, these turkeys are as big as turkeys in America, and they have these incredible weapon-like dinosaur feet, right? I'll stop moving so you can see it. These are turkeys at the bird feeder. Now, the lorikeets got there first, and they put on their thug energy and stood off the turkeys. And the turkeys were totally intimidated by these little tiny birds. And when I saw it, this is just part of the drama that happens around here all the time. And here's the little lorikeets. They're maybe 1/50th, 50 lorikeets to 1 turkey in terms of weight or mass, and the turkeys back off. Something about the attitude generated by these tough little birds intimidates birds 50 times bigger. That is an example of karma. I'm going to dig it out so you can make the point. I want to quote it correctly. Here we go. It's this one. These are afflictions, right? 俱生不舍相. Various attributes of their afflictions. The attribute of coming along with rebirth and not letting go. That's an affliction. And these birds I just watched, there's no logical sense in the toughest, nastiest birds in the bush being the smallest, but they are. These guys, the currawongs, who are, I mentioned, are bullies too, don't threaten the lorikeets. The lorikeets stand their ground, and they lower their heads like this, and they're doing something with their eyes that communicates a message to all the big birds, watch out, and they back down. So you think about the power of karma and affliction, that's misery on the part of the lorikeets, that they keep doing this nasty stuff. Scares everybody. Oh my goodness. Last lecture, I told you about the pukeko. You can turn those lights off. I want you to see. Yeah, there we go. We have these birds from New Zealand called the pukeko. They're called purple swamp hens in Australia. Very unattractive name. And check out, we had 1 pukeko, and somebody said, "Oh, poor lonely bird. Wouldn't it be nice if we could find him a mate?" Okay, well, the next week there were 2 pukeko. Somehow he attracted a mate, or she brought in her husband, I don't know. And then we thought, oh my goodness, now there are 2 of them. Well, here's the mother pukeko, and I want you all to look there. That's distinctly a awe moment. That's a little fuzzy baby pukeko. We saw him and we thought, oh my goodness, that bird is going to be a morsel for all the things around here that eat little birds, such as snakes, pythons, gobble them. Kookaburras will grab them, currawongs will grab them, hawks will get them, foxes, feral cats. But he sleeps under this leaf. He shelters himself from the air attack from the air by hiding under that leaf, baby Pukeko, while mom is up here patrolling, right? Here's the mother, we think, maybe, Pukeko. There she is. She's the size of a large duck, water bird, right? And here's her kid. Look at that little kid. Now, since I've been back, we haven't seen him or her, so we're hoping all is well. But now we have pukekos in the neighborhood, and they are gobbling up our lotus pond. The lotus pond is trashed officially by the pukekos, but it will grow back. Well, how about that? The other news around here is this one, which is a baby possum named Pogo. Pogo is traveling on mother's back right here. And he grew up real fast. And we're thinking that maybe he's already in the throw into the deep end of the pool, sink or swim phase of his education as a possum. For a while, he gets to go to possum school on mother's back, but at a certain point, he's just too big to get back in the pouch, and he holds on too tight to mother's fur, pulling chunks of fur out, and he's on his own from then on. So we're waiting to see if he comes in by himself. Usually, mom will drop him, just leave him, and wait for him to get hungry enough to follow the trail that he has followed on her back. So that's here we go. There's Mother Taxi. Pogo the possum is hitching a ride on mom. Very sharp claws. So there we go. Okay, well, I'm glad I get to share some of I was told that these king parrots are waiting to attend the lecture. I don't know if that's true. I guess as long as there's parrot mix birdseed, they'll listen to the Avatamsaka. So how about that? You guys don't get any birdseed. Maybe, Jin Chuan, maybe you could arrange some birdseed packs at the door. People attract your own parrot. Like, aren't these beautiful critters? Huh? Okay, that's the story. And we will continue next week. Let's see what happens I'm done with the photos. So what happens is we get 10 abilities that the Bodhisattva has at the ninth stage. Then we're at like 4 or 5 right now. Then what happens next is there's the new teaching that happens in the ninth stage. And in this case, I happen to know it's about sound. And we discover how the Bodhisattva uses sound to teach, like vibrations. And it's out there. It's trippy. You'd think you were watching, the Twilight Zone and science fiction. But it's all completely in your mind. It's in your mind's power. Okay, I'm about to bring up dedication of merit. And Jin Chuan, you want to make some announcements about what's going on at Berkeley Monastery?
Okay, so tomorrow we have the one-day Amitabha walking recitation in the Dongding style, starting at 7:30 a.m., going to 4:30 p.m. Is there anything else happening? I think it's a standard week. What's happening? Yeah, Marty's still having class on Friday. Stephen Tainer on Wednesday. This Thursday night, the Insight Berkeley Meditation Group. Anything else? I think there's an art display up at CDTB. If people want to go to DRBU building, I think it's titled "Story of the Buddha," and there's we call it reliefs. An artist made reliefs of the Buddha's life story, and so you can go and take a look if you happen to be at CDTB.
Okay, I wanted to mention another high point of our visit from the monks in China, and it happened right where that art exhibit is happening, which is Master Yenjie, our Dharma brother from Beijing, who is the vice chair, couldn't come to Master Hua's centennial. He had duties, you know, he's the guy. He's the #1 man on the spot now, monk on the spot. So instead of coming, he took his calligraphy brush, a big calligraphy brush, and inked out 2 scrolls. And the first word of the first line was Xuan. The first word of the second one was Hua. So it's dedicated to Master Hua. And it was, he mounted it and sent it to us, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was the best. This is when the Buddhist Association wants quality, they get China's best quality. Beautifully done. Huge. I mean, probably 12 feet from top, not that many, 10 feet from top to bottom. And we hung them in the gathering room, the meeting room at Dharmaram Buddhist University. And he didn't know that. And so he came in leading the delegation for our meeting, and there were his scrolls, just, you know, with a huge space around them. He was so happy. It was a real hit. We all took pictures around Master Yenjie's scrolls. So it was super. That was just great. And I'm really glad that was the spot they chose. It really worked. Okay, please send out a wish. Let your mind expand the way even better than a Marvel comic superhero would expand his or her mind, right? And we'll see you all next week for more Avatamsaka Sutra. Appreciation for our staff here in Gold Coast who are translating for listeners in China. Any numbers, Cliff? 90. Wow, 90. How many on YouTube? Not that we're competing. 84,000, limitless. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Thanks, everybody. See you all next week. Aum Tofu.